burnish that down really good. And then we're going to place this, and it's just going to, ow, whoops, drop my knife right in my lap. I got lucky there. Last time I did that, it stuck in my leg and bled profusely. I'd stabbed myself. Rolled this other craft knife I had, like rolled right off the table, and this is when I was standing to craft, and it just stuck right through my sweats and everything. Okay, with this you're going to line it up with the bottom of this and the sides. This is real simple. Okay, just kind of press where you need to be, grab your things, slide them in, press. Okay, I'm going to check to make sure that's still free. Okay, this one, we're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue that down. I got mine down. We are on the bottom front pocket, the front one. And we're going to do the same thing, is cut out those little squares. We'll fold. Use our tool to help us there. And then what's going to happen is we're going to be installing that right like that, and I think that's very pretty. Okay, let's add our glue. Pull this down, and I'm going to get this all ready to go. It's easier for you to add this after. Fine. And press it down to get that all evened up. So. Perfect. Remember this little piece here? All right. Looking at it like this, let's start off measuring over 2 1/4 inches and cutting. That should be a perfect fit for you. If it is not, and you need to trim a little off the bottom, do so, but you should have a little bit of a white border under your trim. And we will bring that down and glue that down. What do you think so far, guys? I think that looks really pretty. Alrighty, let's open this up. We had a 4 1/4 by 6 1/2 picture mat pocket. And that is going to place right here. Let's do what we're going to do first. Okay, we do have to get our thing here, but we're going to place that right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply glue to the top and the bottom and to one side and the long side, and it needs to be on this side because our pocket, we can get our pictures out from this side, our picture mats. So glue under this side, the long side, and the bottom. So let's do that. Actually, before we do that, what would be really pretty, never mind. My mind is going. I have all sorts of things. Don't worry. They will reveal themselves. This is scary, my mind working like that. Okay. So when you place this, you can bring it over to the side. If you would like to bring it all the way to that trim piece, do so. I think I'll do that. And I'm going to give it a little bend, just a little bit, so that there is a little gap, not much. And I'm just going to put that down. At this point, you should be able to get in and out of there. Let's find our paper. In your reserves, drag this out. You have another piece that is 12 inches long. On the back, it looks like this. Measure over 6 inches and cut. Okay, if you notice, if you place this top to bottom, you will have a nice white frame around this, side to side. We're just going to glue that right on down. Now, we are actually going to glue it down like this because if we did it like this, it'd be upside down. So we're going to do it where the lace is on the bottom. In your reserves, you will find this. It's like this on one side, and on the other, it's like this with that. In the very beginning, I said, ooh, look at that. That's pretty. We can use that. So what we're going to do is we're going to be covering the hinges up. So we're going to measure over 1/2 inch and cut, measure over again, 1/2 inch and cut. All right, once you do that, what we're going to do is measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. All right, we're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue that down over that white little hinge there. Make sure you do not go over your score line. So we'll put one here, and we're going to put one right over here. If you would rather use this side, you can. So whichever way you want. Let's take a look. I put this side. Actually, that looks really pretty with the lace side up, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do the same over here. Okay, so we're going to do a couple things together here, and I have to fix the blinds again. In your reserves, you will find this on the back. It looks like this. We're going to create a little booklet type folder for pictures to be put into. So we're going to do that together. This one here, we are going to cut out and around and take this off this sheet. I'm going to have you cut a piece of cardstock that is 5 5/8 by 7 5/8. We'll just set this off to the side. We're going to need our scoring board. I'll just place it right here, and it's definitely time to move these blinds. I hope you can see just a little better. I've got glares coming in through the blinds now. So what we're going to do is lay it so we are 7 5/8 across the board. And we are, I believe, at about 3 3/4. Let's score and see what we get. So 3 3/4, we score and fold. And that should be where we need to be. Let's place this on top. You should be able to place it and still see white around the edges. Good, I did good. I didn't mess us up. All right, I'm gonna just erase some things here. Where did I do with my... So I'm going to make sure I use my bone folder on this. So the opening is going to be off to the right. I am going to apply glue to the back of this, and I will center that, leaving a white border around it. So let's do that. I hope the lighting is a little bit better. I think it was glary before. Okay, so what you have here, and then we can place photos. Now you can go back at the end of the tutorial and place paper if you want your decorative paper in here. But for now, at least we have a beautiful, and you can open it like this too, and that would be pretty. We can place that right in the pocket, right like that. We're going to have to do some decorating here. And I'm just going to close this up, make sure my album still shuts, and it should. We also have these to attach. So maybe we should get that going really quick and get our paper for that. I think we should. All right. We are first going to fold on these score lines. Okay. Now once you fold them both, you're going to kind of push them so they kind of make a little thing like this. Let's see, if we flipped it over the top, it should be a nice fit. This is the top one here, okay? And then this would be the one that's going to be like this. So on the bottom one, we're going to fold. And for those of you that are using the decorative punches, the one that says top, our hinges are going to be at the top. You can use your decorative punch and punch along the long side if you'd like. Those of us that are die cutting, I'm going to show you what I'm going to use. I am in the Ornate Borders and Pockets die, and the one that I'm grabbing are the two pieces right here. One looks like this, and the other looks like this. Okay, remember, flap at the top. So down here, what we're going to do is we're going to place that centered. And you should be able to be just inside the white paper. Then all we're going to do is we're going to put this down and we're going to run that right on through our die cutter. So let's do that. Okay, die cutters, after you run it through your machine, you'll still have something attached there. We're just going to come straight in from the side to release this. Now, one thing is our trim is wider than those who used the punch. I believe the people who use the punch are sitting at, where's my ruler? One of them, using both. For the decorative punch, I believe you're about 1 1/4 inch of trim. And for us, we are sitting at 1 5/8 approximately about of trim. So there's a difference. So what we're first going to do is the people who punched, we're going to all cut the same cut. And then us die cutters, we can trim ours down. That way we have the same leftovers. I hope that made sense. In your reserves, you will find this on the back. It's this. And this is approximately about 4 7/8 wide or so by about 6 1/8 tall. So the first thing that we're going to do is turn it like this, and we're going to measure over 4 3/4 inch and cut. Next, we're going to measure over 4 1/4 inch and cut. Those of you that used the punches, if you were to lay this down, this should be a good fit, leaving you a little bit of white border at the top and enough to where you have a little white border before your trim hits. If for any reason you need to trim a little off the bottom, do so. Those of us that die cut, we're going to lay this down. And we're going to leave a little bit of a white border at the top. And we're going to take our pencil. You see where the edge of our white paper is here? We're just going to move to the left a little bit to trim this excess off. And then that will give us a little bit of a white border. So let's try cutting there first. Die cutters, once you've done that, let's verify that we're going to fit, and that should be a nice fit to give us like this. Once everybody has their piece fitting, we're going to apply glue, and remember our flap is at the top, and we're going to center that, and we're going to glue that down. A really quick note, die cutters, if you are a beginner, one thing that you're going to want to do before you glue this down is you have a top score line and a bottom one. You need to push on the bottom one and get that flap back behind so that when you measured, you are only measuring what needs to be covered. Okay, we have that. Okay, we're going to flip this up and we want another magnet. And let's see here. When this goes like this, it goes like this. There is plenty of room. I did my little math correctly. So grab one of your magnets and we're just gonna place it right there. And for all of you, underneath your trim, we're gonna have ours in different places. So maybe go down 3/8 from the bottom of your trim. We're gonna find our paper now. In your reserves, you will find this piece. The musical notes on the other side is this. This is approximately 4 3/4 by about 5 3/4. Okay, we'll start going this way. We're going to measure over 4 1/4 inches and cut. Got mine trimmed on the side. Measure over 4 5/8 and cut. People who use the punches, this should be a good fit. If you need to trim a little, do so. Those of us that use the punch. So what we're going to do is we have an outside score line and an inside one. We're going to place this so that we have room between that score line and the bottom of our paper. We're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to look up here to the edge of our white cardstock, and we'll just come a little bit down underneath it, down over to the side of it, so we'll get a white border, and we're going to trim. Now, when placing this, remember your trim needs to be up. Otherwise, if you have it like this, you're gonna have it upside down. So I am going to add some glue to this magnet. Okay, and then I'm going to apply glue to this, and I want the musical notes to show. I think that's really pretty. And then I'm going to place this. And we all should be placing ours at this point. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's we're actually going to attach this one last. I like to get the bottom one on first. We have the score lines down here. We have a bottom score line and a top one. We're going to pinch on that top one, fold everything back behind. Our hinge needs to be at the bottom. Let's find our paper. We're all the same on this cut. We should have all the leftovers the same. In your reserves, you will find this gorgeous 12-inch long piece, and we're only about 4 1/8, I think, wide. I want this. So we're going to measure over 5 15/16 inch and cut. So this is how it's going to place. You should be able to look and see, yes, it fits. But before we can lay this down, we have to get the mate on here. So we're going to have to attach this. So I'm going to stick this off to the side. We're going to hook this back behind, right in the middle there, so it comes back over. Okay, make sure you are straight, centered side to side, pinch it. And then we're just going to add glue or your hot glue, whatever you'd like, to part of this hinge. And we will wrap it around. Okay, let that go. Okay, now that we have that, we can now attach this one. So we're going to place that on top, slide it back behind, and line up our paper so that it looks straight. Once you have it where it needs to be, pinch and hold it. If you feel your paper slipping, you need to realign it, or you'll get on crooked. I think mine slipped. Possibly. I should have realigned it, but I'll see. No, I look pretty good there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to flip this up and find the mate to that one thing. We will place it on there. Put a glue dot in the middle. Now, this we're going to just lay flat, bring this over, and lightly, don't stretch it real tight, lightly, just press. Now we know where our glue and our magnet needs to go. Again, glue to glue. Glue here, glue on your magnet, needs to be placed. Okay, once that's down, I'll put some glue around it. Apply glue to the back of this, and we'll glue that down. That's going to be really pretty. I got mine down. Let's just fold that up. And there is our page 1. We do need to place paper here, and then we're going to add some final touches to this. Pull this back out of your reserves. It's the leftover cutting from this. This will fit perfect side to side. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. you should have a nice fit. Let's apply glue and glue that down. Tear off your Paper Pack 1 cover. We're going to get a few things out of this. So we'll set that off to the side. Let's close this up. We want one of the butterflies. And the butterfly is going to get glued right there. I'll set that off to the side, and we're going to be getting into some laces and all sorts of stuff. Your specialty bling. Let's cut a piece that will fit side to side. And I'm going to apply glue to the back of this. Now that is gorgeous. Wow. I think that looks wonderful. I hope you do too. Let's flip this up. I know my stuff is still... Oh, one thing about the butterfly, make sure that the wing does not go over the edge or it will catch. So if you need to re-maneuver your little guy, do so. Bring him down a little bit more. Okay, we're going to flip that up. And we'll flip that down. First thing I'm going to do, get my bigger scissors, is you see this first little panel here? I'm just going to cut it out and make my life easier. Okay. Now, as far as this goes, all I'm going to do is try to cut out and around this a little better, just to get some of this. And I'm just going to try to fussy cut around this rose. It's not going to be the easiest, but just do the best you can. Just shape it the best you can. Okay, this rose is going to be glued down right here. And if you need to put something in your pocket, because you're going to want to glue it up partially onto your trim, glue this right on down here. Okay, that little butterfly, let's pull them out of there. Okay, this little bit of green leaf, let's pull it out of there. We're going to cut up and around that as best we can. I'm just going to try to get around it as best I can. Okay, for now I'm going to put this in my reserves, or just stick it off to the side is fine. So let's fussy cut around this butterfly that has some pretty colors in it. Little butterfly goes here. Don't glue it down just yet. I am going to glue that down right like this. That's really pretty. Remember this? I just had you put out around, just kind of cut out and around this rose as best you can. I'll show you what mine looks like. This is what mine looks like, and all I'm going to do is add a little glue to here and the bottom, and it's going to go right here. That way, if I want to just stick a little tag, I can still get something to slide in back behind. Alrighty. So far, so good, guys. Open this up. We have two things to cut out. We're going to cut out this panel, and then we're going to cut out this panel. Let's start here. We're going to cut out and around this beautiful little drapery thing, and I'll show you what mine looks like. Yay, that looks good. Find some white cardstock. We are going to back it. We're going to apply glue to this, and we are going to glue it down, but we are going to leave a little bit of a white border on the sides and the top and the other side. So I will show you what mine looks like as soon as I am done doing that. Here is mine. So we're going to plant this right on over to the side. So underneath this, all we want to do is put some glue over here, a thin line of glue at the bottom and the other side. We'll just bring that right on over to the bottom of our decorative paper to the side. So guess what? We now have a little pocket if we wish to use, or enough room to just plant a picture and put some tags in there. This little guy, there's a couple things that I want off this. There's a few things. We're going to cut out and around the feather, but first, before you do that, I want you to come in underneath Save the Date, and you'll cut just where it hits the top there. And we are going to snip that out because we want that. So there's one piece, Save the Date. Now we're going to cut out and around the feather and the hearts. So let's do that. Okay, so I've got all my little pieces here. The first one I'm going to show you is my feather. Now, if you have brown ink, I'm using Tim Holtz Distress Vintage Photo. You can ink around the edges. It is totally not necessary, but I wanted to do mine. Okay, Save the Date. I'm going to ink around that as well as my hearts. Alright, I'm going to leave this page alone. Let's open up. I want to stick this feather right here, but I don't want to glue it completely down in case somebody wants to put a nice size photo. They can still slip it back behind. So I'm just going to put a fine line of glue just right underneath the edges here and at the bottom of that bow. So I will show you. Just a little bit. And I'm going to bring it down to where it comes down to the bottom of the page without interfering with that other fold out. And I will place it. I want to make sure I can still put something back behind, so I'll slide that in there while I press it down. Save the Date is going to go right here. So I'm only going to put glue on this side so somebody can still get something behind there. The hearts, the biggest one, I am going to glue down to the page in the corner. I'm also going to add some glue to the medium size, but only on one side in case they need to slip something behind. And then this one will have a little behind the one side, so they can still get stuff in there. Our thinner lace would be good, and this is our 3/4 flat lace, and I'm just going to measure over to where it meets the heart. Right about there. And I'm only going to place glue at the top so that if they need to get a photo underneath, they can. Just slide it under, partially under that lace. So for your open weave, measure a piece that will fit from top to bottom. So this is for people to slide photos back behind, so I am going to make sure I get enough glue there and down here to keep this in place. And I'll mop up any glue that I don't need. Now if you have your little binder clips to hold it in place for now, that would be great. Just to kind of hold it there. And I have a few of these. If not, you can start by just a little bit of tacking with hot glue just to get it to stay in place. So this is just a loose band, and what you can do is just stack your photos in there. Now, if you want to pull, once you have it clamped down here, if you need to pull it tighter, do so to bring it nice and tight. Look at that. Okay, let's give this a few moments to dry. I grabbed 2 of the Tim Holtz little flowers. Now I'm going to open these up so they're not so bulky. And I'm going to place one right here, and I'm going to place another one right here. Grab your diamond stickles while this is all drying, and we'll just add a little bit to our flowers down here. Okay, save the date. We are going to outline. Up here, let's outline or even cover in one of our hearts, then we can outline the darker one. I think that looks really pretty. Now, one thing you can also do is accent some of the paper. Like this flower and the pearls, guess what? I'm just going to put it you don't need to use a lot of stickles, just so you know, to get effect. So I'm just going to run my stickles over some of the artwork. And then for the rose, I'm just going to kind of outline this. Okay, so all of this has to dry, and my lace should be done. I'm going to take a 15-minute break so this can all dry. And you know, another thing you can do, and it may take a little bit more, but you can add stickles to your lace. And you know what? I'm going to do that. Since this all has to dry anyway, this is a great time. I'm just going to kind of measure what I need for my things to get back behind in there. Woohoo! I'm going to give it a shot. Whether it ruins it or not, I don't know. If it does, I'll just replace it. But I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be kind of a neat accent. And you don't need a lot. Remember, this is just going to add some stuff. The one thing that we don't want to use inside of here is any flat back pearls. And the reason why is because it's too bulky for what I created. We have enough room for our photos, for a bunch of maybe your invitations, your napkins, but nothing that is domed really big. I'm going to work on this, and after it dries, I'm going to show you. So if you want to go ahead and do this, this is going to look really nice. I can tell you that. It's going to look, I don't know if anybody has done this before. I'm sure they have. Okay, 20-minute break. Let's let this dry and then we'll check. Remember, if you go on too thick with some of this, and you can pat it. And if you want to get the sides, you can use the excess from what you pat, just in case you went on too thick. Woohoo! Okay, I'm going to wash my hands, be back in 20 minutes, and we will regroup, and we will get ready to put our score tape on the back. And then we're going to move to page 2. Okay, 20 minutes is not up, so I'm going to set this off to the side, and we are going to prepare for page 2. This does not get mounted until we are done with page 2, and then I will explain the reason why when we get to that point. But for now, I am going to set this off to the side and let it continue to dry, the stickles. So one thing that we're going to do that I haven't done in other tutorials is we are going to pre-cut all of our decorative base pages, and we're going to set them to the side. And the reason why is this album is very large, and I need to make sure I calculate that we have enough paper to complete it, as well as some left over for our picture mats. So let's start with page 2 and what we need. In paper pack number 2, we are going to take this out. Okay, and the first cut we are going to make, and we're going to look at it like this. We're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This large piece is going to go in our reserves. Let's flip this around, and we are going to measure over 9 1/4 inches and cut. Here is our page 2. We're just going to set that off to the side. Now I'm going to tell you the other pages, like for 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 12 for this. In paper pack number 1 and 2, you will find both of these prints. Okay, let's start with just flipping this one so that it's like this. We are going to double these up like this. So once they're doubled up, we are all good. Okay. We'll now look at it like this. We're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. These two shorter width papers are going into our reserves. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to just keep these doubled up as we have them. So that's what it looks like there. we're going to measure over 9 1/4 inches and cut. This is what you should have. I want you to stick these off to the side, not in your reserves, but they're going to go in a special place for us to grab from for our base pages, okay? So I'm going to stick that off to the side. In paper pack 1 and 2, you will find this gorgeous print. They're the same, of course. On the back it looks like this, okay? So we're going to turn one upside down and one like this, and we're just going to place it on top of each other. Now, we're just going to look at it so it's like this. So we're like this, and we're like this. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. All right, so I have this like this, that like that. This one has the rows up here. This one upside down over here. Measure over 9 1/4 inches and cut. Those small pieces are going to go in our reserve, so this is what we should have. These two we're going to stick off to the side with our other two. Not in our reserves. In paper pack 1 and 2, you will locate these two prints. And on the back, it looks like this. We're going to cut these separately because it could get us turned around. Okay, look at one like this. We're going to turn it. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. Put the bottom half in your reserves. We are 7 1/4. Measure over 9 1/4 inches and cut. All right, this little piece we just cut off, flip it around. Here's your side. Measure over 3/8 inch and cut. Skinny little piece is what we want. We're going to apply glue to the back of it, and we're going to bring that trim all the way to the corner there so it looks right, and we're just going to place those together. Stick this off to the side with your other pre-cuts. Okay, for this one, we're not going to measure here. First things first, you see the edge here of your paper right next to the lace? We're going to put this on our paper cutter and cut that off. So let's do that. Stick this in reserves. So I'm looking at it now like this. I got the pearl little stuff down here. We're going to stick this on our paper cutter, and we are going to cut just on to the left side of the brown so we can get some of that brown in there. If you cut it off, we'll just ink it. So let's do that. I cut mine off. Now measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. You can stick this in reserves. So what we're going to have to do now to get this to fit right is we're going to first cut off this little gray trim thing. So let's trim that down. Your piece should look like this. Measure over 9 1/4 inches and cut. Okay, remember to put all little scraps in your reserves. This is going to be a base page. Look how beautiful. We will put that off with our other one. In paper pack number 1, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. In paper pack number 3, you will have one of these left. On the back, it's this. It's what we used for our covers. Okay? So what we're going to do is cut one at a time. We're going to just flip this to where we are looking at it like this. We're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut on this one only. Now look at it like this. Your roses are up on the left. Measure over 9 1/4 and cut. Beautiful. Stick this off with your other main decorative pages there. So this sheet, look at it to where it has the lace at the bottom. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. All right, now look at it like this. Measure over 9 1/4 inches and cut. Stick your small piece in reserves. This is your other base page. Let's put it off to the side. Okay, from our book 1, we have one sheet left, and it's this one. We do want that. And from book 2, we want this one. and on the back it is this. Let's do one at a time. Okay, with this one, look at it sideways, measure over 7¼ inches and cut. Now, measure over 9¼ inches and cut. This is what you should have. Flip it over. That is a base page. We'll set this off to the side. This one. Alrighty. So we're going to look at it like this. And we're going to measure over 7¼ inches and cut. This is what you should have. And we're just going to turn that right upside down. Measure over 9¼ inches and cut. Flip it over. This was the last base sheet that we needed to cut. We will put this off to the side with the other ones. Page 2. We're ready to check off to make sure that we have the correct pieces for page 2. I had you cut a 5 by 8½ inch piece of white cardstock, and we labeled that side pocket. I had you cut a 3 inch by 7¼ inch, and we labeled that trim. Now we're going to flip this on over. Those of you with the deep edge punches, you will punch along the long side. Those of us die cutters, I'm going to show you, I'm in Regal Borders and Pockets. And what you're going to do is, I have these two pieces here. Alright, so what we're going to do is just place that. And we want to make sure that we center this top to bottom. So if you want to measure up and do what you need to do it to keep yourself even. Same amount up here and here, at least try. So that the tip of our die goes to the tip of the paper on the side here. And then I will be placing this die right here. And I'm going to run that through my die cutter. Die cutters, this is what you should have, and we do have to cut in from the side to release that top piece. So sometimes it's best to actually put this on your paper cutter so that you can get a straight side from here to here even. So I'm going to do that. So what you're going to want to do is grab your decorated paper, put it down. Place your pocket so that you have an even amount of flaps hanging over your edge. This is a different style of pocket. And what you're going to do, we're going to line it up with the bottom of our decorative paper, the top, and we're going to glue that right on down to our piece. I know where mine is, and I just got to be very careful about not getting it on there. I'll apply my glue, and then I will show you when I glue mine down. Now remember, the only part that we are putting glue on is on this piece, right there. So I am going to line that up with the bottom of my decorative paper. You'll want to be straight. So I'm going to move that now. If you get anything on your paper, just move it aside. So I'm going to make sure that that is down really good. All right, we are ready to go. So what I want you to do is give this a little bend. Give your paper just a little bend there. We need our score tape, and I'm going to grab my 1/4 inch. And I'm going to place it on the left-hand side of this piece, the side that does not have this. And we definitely have to burnish this down. Okay, we all gave this a little bend, right? So now make sure that you line up your cardstock, this to the side here, before you flop it down. You can line it up where it needs to go. Okay, once you have it on the bottom and over to the side, just kind of press right here. And then it's easier to line up here. And then press. Okay, now before you do anything, press down in the center and move out. You will see that it will pop up as well. And that's something that we want. It gives us a little more space. Flip this over, and this is where we just fold this over. Make sure when you're folding, your paper is flat. And now you can use your hot glue or whatever. We're going to glue these flaps back behind. voila, there is our side pocket. And you can get large photo mats in there. In your reserves, you will find this piece on the back. It looks like this. Turn your paper so you're looking at it like this. Measure over 7¼ inches and cut. Leave this handy. Let's verify you're going to fit. Giving you a little bit of room here. You can bring it all the way to the left. You should have a nice white border up there. So this should fit like this. Okay, this piece. What we're going to do there is cut between this little panel and the little white. So let's do that. I did not have you cut this in the pre-cuts. This is something extra. Cut a 3 by 6 inch piece of cardstock. Once you do that, people with the punches, you can use your large punch to punch along this side, or if you did get this one, which is a little bit smaller, even better. A 1/2 inch will work just the same, but let's do that. Now, die cutters. I am in the Sweetheart Borders, and I have this one. And I'm just going to place this down even, side to side, and run this through my die cutter. If you have any pencil marks showing up, let's just erase that. Get all of our pieces together here. Place this down. It may go up higher than your trim allows, okay? So it's okay. We are going to apply glue. Now when we apply glue for this, we're going to center it, leaving yourself an even amount of flap on each side. So we got this mounted. We left spaces on either side. We have this. In your reserves, you should have a long skinny piece from when we were trimming down. On the other side, it looks like this. We're going to measure over 7¼ inches and cut. So what we're going to do with this before we start doing anything else is we're going to apply glue, and we are going to glue that down, and that should reach top and bottom. And when you do this, you're going to leave a little bit of white here and here showing. All right, let's get this going. Let's grab our 1/4 inch score tape. We're going to lay a piece at the bottom of this panel. Make sure you use your bone folder. And we're going to mount this on here. Give this a little bend. Bring it down to the bottom, matching up your sides. Press in the middle and press out. Now we can wrap around the back and glue these little flaps down. Now let's see what our page looks like. It's going to look pretty awesome, if you ask me. And if you bring it over, you'll have your nice line like that. It is time to glue this down. So we're going to apply glue, and we will glue this down. This is what your page should look like. In your reserves, you will find the cutout from the front page of book 1 that we started on. See, once in a while here, all we're going to do is start by just cutting that out, making sure we don't damage any other cutouts in case we need to use that. If you have some brown ink, that might be good to ink around the edges of this and distress it a little. If you don't, that's okay. All right, in your scraps, grab some white cardstock. Let's apply glue to the back of this, and we are going to mount that down, leaving a little bit of a white border around it. And we're going to cut out, leaving that little white border. This is dangerous for me to be doing this by hand, but I'm going to. Okay, so we have that. We're going to stick that right there. However, we are only going to add glue to the bottom of it in case you'd like to stick something behind. And I'm just going to put it at an angle like that. There's not a whole lot that we need to do for this. I have 2 of those Tim Holtz little flowers, and I'm going to stick them right down here. Grab your pearl trim, and what we're going to do is, you didn't have glue underneath that, but we're just going to measure from side to side what we need. And I'm going to allow that to dry. You should have your bling on the row, and it's the single row. All we're going to do is cut pieces to fit around this little piece that we glued down. So I've got my bling down, and I'm allowing it to dry. The last thing you'll want to do is make a small bow with your ribbon. We're going to place that right here. Grab one of your flat back pearls, and we'll apply glue to the center. We're going to allow that to dry. This page is complete. It's actually gorgeous. I think this looks so nice. Love this paper. I really do. Okay, this is going to need some time for the fabric here to glue with that and everything else. So as soon as it's done, we're going to flip this over and add our score tape to the back, as well as to the back of page 1. And then we're going to mount page 2 before we mount our page 1. Now, understanding how I do this is, this isn't page 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I do it like we're reading a book. Page 1, page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. And I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to go to lunch, and I will be back. All right, everything is dry. So on your page 1, let's just close it up, flip it over, and I'm using my 1/4 inch score tape, if I can manage to find it. We'll actually flip over both of our little things here. I swear I lose everything on my craft desk. Okay, so both of them are down. So the first thing we're going to do on both of these is we are going to lay score tape around the edges like a picture frame. We'll start there. So I got score tape around the outside of each one. Now this is the bulkier one, page 1. So we're going to put several pieces of score tape on this one because we have quite a bit of stuff on there. So one down the middle. Let's put one in between the middle and sides. And we're going to put one in between here, 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 and here. Oops. I'll need to burnish that down. Now let's go to page 2. We don't have a whole lot of heavy stuff, so we're just going to go one down the middle, and we're going to go 2 on either side. And then let's get our tool and burnish this all down. So let's take a moment, make sure we get this all down. Let's get our book, and we're going to place page 2 first. And the reason why we do that, and it'll make more sense once I show you. When we place this one down, like so, you will notice that it'll be easier to line the top of this one up with this because our chipboard, the inner side of our chipboard is larger than our individual pages. See? So it's easier to line this one up to make sure it's correct. So a word here that will help is grab something out of your reserves. Because we're using white cardstock, it's hard to see the edges sometimes. So I'm just going to lay something right underneath there so that I can see the edge better of my page when lining it up. Now we should be about 1/8 of an inch when we lay this away from our score line, our hinge. So I am going to remove my score tape and place it. And we'll place that together. I have the score tape backing off this. Now remember, when you're looking at it, your pocket is over here. Don't lay it like this. So first things first, I am going to center this top and bottom and make sure I am 1/8 inch away. Now if it's easier to turn your album around like so that you can actually see where you are placing this and see side to side, then do so. I think that's pretty well straight. Hoping anyway. Right there. Okay. We do need to burnish down everything, but let's get both of them in. So that's one. Let's remove the score tape backing off our page 1. So when I place page 1, I do tend to like to move farther away from that hinge. So what I'm looking now is to try to line it up with the bottom of this page, the top of this page. And I am going to move it over more and try to place that as straight as I can. So just do the best you can. Sometimes it's hard to be perfect. But I think right about here. So I'm going to press. I may have gotten that on a little crooked, but so over here I'm going to start by burnishing down my edges as best I can and pressing. Sometimes you can just kind of make sure that it's down like that. Now for this one you do need to unlatch. You will need to open it up completely to burnish. Now your flowers should be okay on the outside, and so there should not be anything that gets ruined by pushing down. If it does, fluff it back up. But I think I got mine pretty well down. And this is done. I wanted to show you this after it dried. You might be able to see the sparkles on this. Very pretty. Let's close this up. And this is what page 1 and 2 look like. Isn't that gorgeous? Let's check out outside. Now everything seemed to survive that little pushing. The butterfly is very thick. Our flowers were already treated with a stiffener, so nothing got mashed. We are done, page 1 and 2, and we are on to page 3. We are on page 3, and off to the side, one of your pre-cut base decorative papers. We want this one. Has a little bit of the lace and pearls on the side. On the back, it looks like this. So this is what we're going to use for our base page on 3. Let's go over our pre-cut cardstock. We had cut one at 5 inch by 11 inch. And scoring on this was we placed it 5 inches across our scoring board and we scored at a 1/2 inch. We then turned it and we had it at 11 inches across. We scored at 7/8 and 10 1/4. Now you may see an extra little score line on mine. This was my practice sheet, my draft, so I'm not going to worry about that because it's going to get covered up. Next, what we did was we cut the 4x4 fan pocket. And what we did was we laid that so we were 4 inches, of course, cross board. We scored at a 1/2 inch. Then in the instructions, it said to rotate your paper once to the right and score at a 1/2 inch. On the fan pocket die cutters, we will be using our little fan die that came out of Frame a Card Leafy Borders. Those of you using the EK Tools Deep Edge you are going to create something like this. Now I have it in black cardstock because I had some extra scraps. So yours is going to turn out like this. And by the time we're done, it'll look good. Okay? All right, so we'll get to that in just a moment. We first want to start with our 5 by 11 inch pocket. So paper puncher people, hold off for a sec. Let me get started with the die cutters. I'm in the Floor Borders Basic, and the one we want is this. It's the one where the blades, when they're down, we have this and it goes down. So we have to piggyback ours to work. And what you're going to do is just bring that all the way up to the left-hand corner here. And the top of these first few big humps should be straight on against the paper's edge. So let's first start by die cutting this. People who are using the punches, I'm going to help you here in just a moment. Let me get through this. All right, so once you have that, it will release the top part of our die. Okay, so this is what you should have. Now, we are going to have a little gap here, and that's not going to be a problem. Now, notice that I'm going to place this until it comes down. The bottom comes down to the corner where my score marks meet right there. This is actually going to come and overlap by just a hair over your little die. If you notice, you have a little bit of wiggle room here. If you are not sure, just butt that up as best you can. So let's die cut that. Die cutters, once you are done, yours should look like this. You see this little piece over here? Do not worry, we will put something right back behind so that it, if you don't like it like that, it doesn't bother me, but we will connect them. Paper punchers. Let me get my 5 by 11 inch piece. This is for our paper puncher people. What I want you to do is, you see where the bottom, the score line is here? We're about a 1/2 inch up from the bottom. From that point, I want you to measure up 2 inches from that point, not the bottom, but from the score line. Measure up 2 inches. Now what I want you to do is just place your ruler at that mark and bring it over to the edge over here of your paper. Draw a line. Now cut on that line. Those of you using the paper punchers, this is what you should have. Our score lines here, here, and here. Along this top part, you're just going to punch along the long side. This is what yours should look like when you're done. All right, die cutters. I have a 1/8 inch by 1 inch piece of scrap that I cut off. And one thing I do want to do is try to erase some of my stuff here. And I'll get that in a minute. Let's get our glue. Now this is one way to do it, and I really highly doubt anybody's really going to notice this. But I have glue here on here. And I'm just going to bring it back behind and glue it. Glue those pieces together. Yes, you will have a line, but it's okay. We can always add something right there to cover it up. All right, everyone should be on the same page now. Okay. Everyone grab your piece, and I still have to poke through some of my little pieces there to get the die out, the cuts out. We're gonna chop out that little corner at the bottom, kind of like what we did before. Okay, flip over your piece. Right now, all we are going to do is fold on that bottom one. Grab this. Once you have it where it's supposed to be, we're going to glue that bottom part down. The side score lines were just to help you get that to wrap around, and they should just pull right in now. Make sure your page is flat when you do. Fold on the score line. There is our pocket. And if you do have any pencil marks, you might want to try and get those out. But this should be a nice little pocket to stick several photos in. All right, die cutters, let's start off with you. You can now erase the 4x4 fan pocket or just flip over your paper like this. Makes no difference. You're going to take the fan, which came out of the frame of card leafy borders, and you will stick that right down to fit right in where the corner is there. And we'll run that through our die cutter. Die cutters, this is what you should have. Now our score line is here and here. What we're going to do is come up and snip to release. So I've got that, and we'll do the same over here. Okay, and that little corner where you have your little score corners there, we'll snip that out. You can fold on those score lines now. Paper punchers, here is a score line and here is one. What you're going to want to do is grab your pencil. From this tip, measure in 1 3/8. I believe that's about right. Yep. So you have your 1 3/8 there. Now just lay that down and draw across so where you have a nice looking corner that looks like that. Use your scissors on this. Okay, let me grab the paper punch. And what you're going to do is just go ahead and stick that straight on in there so it's even. And we're going to punch. Once you've punched, you're going to move this over until you can line, looks like it lines up, and it's going to be right about there. You have to look. And we're going to punch again. This is what you should have. Now bring it back over here and line up your little things. Punch. This is what you should have. So that's how I got that. People using the paper punches, fold back on your pieces there. In your reserves, you should have this piece. We're 12 inches, and we have the beautiful flowers over here, and we are approximately 4 5/8 this way. On the back, it looks like this. Measure over 9 1/4 inches and cut. I'm going to start with the die cutters in order to get your curve. Place your piece, and you should be able to slide that right in. Make sure you get it all the way to the bottom. What I want you to do is take your pencil now. In between your little marks, because this is how it's going to guide you, I want you to draw pencil marks, right, to show you whereabouts your bracket is going to fit to cut. Do you see? Now there is our outline. In your Fleur Borders Basic, you will have the curve that fits the curve of this. And it's going to fit like this because remember, we were out this far before we wrapped this white piece over. So that's what we want. So when we place this, we want to make sure that we're going with the line. So line it up just like this and run it through your die cutting machine. Die cutters, this is what you should have. I just want to peel that back, see? It's going to give you a nice fit. Now for this, grab your bracket. Notice that this little line goes all the way to the edge. So just bring that up, line it up as best you can, and run that through your die cutter. Die cutters, you will have this left over. We'll put that in our reserves. Place your piece down and center that side to side. You'll have a little white border on the left and right. And if it is not perfect through here, don't worry. We have something to go right along that edge. Erase any pencil marks you have. Now, people who use the paper punches, this is what you should have. And all I'm going to do right now is cut this out so that I can show you. I'm going to flip this over just so you can see. So yours looks like this. It looks like, whoops, get that down first, over. Mine's a little bulky right now, so I'm going to have to adjust this to fit these extra layers. All right, ignore that. When you place your piece in here, and I'm going to just turn this around and slide that in. Okay, you'll slide your paper in all the way to the bottom. You're probably going to be sitting up here a little more. And make sure it's straight up the sides. You're going to do the same thing. You'll use your pencil and mark in between those little trim openings. That is going to give you the line to cut, and then you will have more yours to fit. Easy, easy. Everyone, after you do that, you'll want to apply glue and glue that down. People who use the paper punches need some sort of paper up here. Let's just fold that in so that all we see is the little bit of paper that we need. Those of us who die cut, I would like to get us a little bit of color back behind, but not all the way. So I'm going to start with the people with the paper punches. In your reserves, you will find this. On the back, it looks like this. And this is a long 12-inch long by about 2 inches wide. That'll be good. Now, on one end, you have some blue and stuff. It's not going to be quite enough to get over totally, but that's okay. What you're going to do is just lay this down until the bottom of this trim piece fits to the little pointy of yours. You're going to have a trim like that, and that's okay. Just make sure that this is all the way over till it hits your side. Hold it in place, flip it over. This is how you get a good fit, and you will just draw. So what you're going to do is, so I have my draw here and here. I snip this off so that I can put this back in my reserves. Now what you're going to do is cut along those lines. And then you can glue it down. And I think that's going to be gorgeous. All right, for those of us that have the die, we have a little bit of blue too that we can use. I want you to bring that down to the bottom and try to make it so it's even up here. So bottom of the little peak there. So it'll be like this. Hold it, and we will draw as well. And we'll cut. That will fit like that. Put it on the inside. Let's see what we got here. That looks good too. Alrighty, people who use the punch, you have glued down yours. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hook this up at the top. Okay, it's going to go just like that. So once you have it in the corner, apply glue and glue that down. Die cutters, you have a choice whether to use this on the inside or the outside. I'm going to glue mine down to the inside. Make sure to sop up any glue that squirts through there. let's attach. We'll just find our corner where it fits and wrap it around, hold it, and do exactly what the people with the paper punchers did. Pretty. We'll put something up there. These little pieces here, the little cuttings, we'll put in our reserves. Grab your bling on a roll, and all we're going to do is glue a row right down through here. So let's do that. I got mine down and it is drying. So one thing I am going to do is run a piece of bling around this. Now pick and choose where you would like to have this. Do you want it up farther up here or here? Where do you want it? You just choose where you would like to have it. So I need to let that dry. On your little jeweled strands of bling, clip off one, apply glue to the back of it, put that baby right there. We'll be adding flowers in just a moment to this, but there's some other things I would like to do there. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it looks like this. We need a couple things out of here, so I am going to show you where I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut straight up there and straight up on this side. These two pieces we put back in our reserves. These two tags we're going to fussy cut out. I got mine all cut out. If you have any brown ink, let's ink around the edges of each one of these. Grab a piece of scrap cardstock, and on this one we're going to glue this down, and we are going to cut around, just leaving a little bit of white border. And I'll show you mine. I'm not the greatest fussy cutter, but you can see a little bit of that white, I think, if I put my hand up behind it. What we're going to do is layer this one on top of it. So when we end up placing this, it'll be like this and like that. So get it in a place where you like, and then you can just flip back and add your glue, like mine right there. All right. After you do that, let's just add some glue. Make sure you get it back behind there so that sticks. Add it to the bottom and the side under here and here. So you can still slip something back behind if you want. If you'd like to hang it off the page a little bit, do so. Pretty. Next, create a bow with your ribbon. And we're going to glue it down right here. And grab a flat back pearl, and that one's going to go right in the center of that bow. We'll glue that down. Prepare a small vine, and something that I did was just round off the corner of that, and I'm going to place that right here. Just glue it so I can still journal if needed. Now with your if you have this, this was just an extra item. I did call it out in the materials list, but it's definitely not necessary. All I did was make some loops and use the hot glue to hold it in place. And I'm going to use hot glue to actually get this down. You can use your regular glue. It just takes a moment more to glue down. I've got the Tim Holtz little flowers, and I'm sorry if this is bouncing around. I will zoom in a bit to help so you can see. I still have to glue this down, it looks like. My little flat back pearl. Alrighty, let's get our stickles out. I've got my stickles out, and all I'm going to be doing is adding it a little lightly to the greenery and my flowers. and some of the artwork down here. Don't know if you can see that or not, but I've got stickles and I'm going to allow that to dry. Up through here though, I did want to add some, and I'm just going to slip something behind here just in case. I'm actually going to do some outlining up here. Now those of you that have the straight, you can just go along the edges there. This page is complete. We're going to allow this to dry, and then once it's dried, we'll flip it over and apply our score tape to the back, and I will be helping you with that. Page 3 is complete. Let's just move on to page 4 while this dries. Page 4. So we stuck this off to the side. This is our page 4. On the back it looks like this. There were a couple pieces here that we cut. This one is a very easy page. It provides for a lot of photo placement. So you cut 2 pieces of white cardstock at 5 5/8 by 9 1/4. Both of these were scored the same. We had placed this on our scoring board, so we were 5 5/8 across. We scored at 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. One was labeled top flip, one was labeled bottom flip. Pretty easy. So what we're going to do is install the bottom flip first. Let's just turn that over. And fold on our score lines. This page is a magnet page. Okay, so right now you have, looking at it with your hinge down here, you have a top score line and a bottom one. On that bottom one, we are going to pinch. And we'll make sure we use our foam folder. Now we're going to keep it pinched on that bottom one. What we're going to do is slide that so that the flap is back behind. We're going to line this up so it is straight from side to side, like that. We're going to pinch and hold it in place. We will flip it over and keep our finger down. If you feel that it moved, definitely realign it. We're going to attach these. This is a real easy, quick page. Now what you can do is fold back on that top score line and then push, and you will have a flat edge for your spacing. Okay, top flip. What we're going to be doing is just turning this over, and we're going to fold on those score lines, and we're going to do the same thing we just did. So your flap, if it's down at the bottom while you're doing this, that's great because we have 2 score lines. We have the upper and a lower, and we'll pinch on that lower one. And now we're going to flip it around. Hinge at the top. We're going to be upside down as far as our writing. We'll just hook that on. Make sure that it is straight and even with the other one. And we will attach it. Now we will open it up and fold back on the other score line. And then push to give it that flat edge. So this is our top. We can erase this so we don't get turned around. And what I would like you to do, so you don't do this upside down, is now just right top. So you're looking at it. This is going to come down over this one. All right, we're going to place one magnet. If I can find my magnets. I don't know about you, but this is crazy over here in my craft room. Okay, got a magnet here. just need one for now. And all we're going to do is fold that up. We'll move in maybe 3/4 of an inch from the edge there. And we'll place one. Next, let's find out where our other one's supposed to fit. So put a dot, and I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to bring it over and press. That's where it goes. Loose side. Put that back. Now one thing is, don't shut your thing yet, because your magnets will come right on off. In your reserves, you will find this. On the back side, it looks like this. If you were to place this down, it would be a perfect fit, leaving you a white border. And there is some writing in the background, so I'm going to make sure my writing is the correct way. And I'm going to glue that down. In your reserves, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. So take a moment to check it out, find it. All we're going to do is measure over 9 inches and cut. Put this piece in your reserves. We're going to apply glue to this side, and you'll notice that this will fit perfect. Be careful about your little score line down here. Just make sure you clear it, and we'll glue that down. Once you have that down, let's fold this up and this over. Make sure you latch. Okay, next piece. In your reserves, you will find this beautiful print. Very lacy looking and flowery. On the back, it looks like this. Measure over 9 inches and cut. You can put the small piece in reserves. All we're going to do is apply glue to this, and we're going to glue it down there to the top, trying to match it up with the sides of this decorative paper. In your reserves, you will find this. All we're going to do is use our scissors, and we're going to cut out these. So let's take a moment to cut around each one of these. We'll stick this back in reserves for now. Once you've cut around your circles, you'll need to trace around it. So I'm going to turn mine upside down so I don't mess up the thing, but just trace around it onto white cardstock and cut out one piece of white cardstock. This is what's going to sandwich in between our two pieces to strengthen it. Take one of your pieces, and we're going to apply glue, and we will mount that right onto the white cardstock. Grab a piece of scratch cardstock and just stick that right there. We're going to be gluing this halfway down here, so all we need to do is measure. We need to be in the middle, that's for sure. So I think I'm going to be right here. Just want to make sure you have enough glue. And then I can always still slip something back behind, but we need enough glue there to hold it. I think that's somewhere in the center. Now flip it over, and now I'm going to turn this around. So this would be up. And I am going to apply glue onto my paper and up here. Just right here. Looking at the flower because I'm upside down. The flower's at the top. And I'm going to press. Very pretty. Let's open this up and get our paper for down here. In your reserves, you will find another print looking like this. On the back, it is this. Looking at your paper, measure over 9 inches and cut. We are going to apply glue to this side, and we will glue it down right on in there. I've got mine down. in your reserves you will find this cutting. On the back it looks like this. And notice how this is chopped off at the bottom? That's perfect. Let's cut out and around this piece. Now, because when you cut out around it's kind of lumpy, so I just kind of did the same with the bottom. This is something that I'm going to ink around the edges with brown. You don't have to, but I am going to distress a little. Look in your reserves for some white cardstock. We're going to do the same thing we've done before. We're going to be gluing this down and we're going to cut out and around our image. I am going to leave just a little bit of white border around that. We're going to be gluing this down, but only a little bit of it. So we're going to overlap a little bit. We're just going to add some glue. Make sure that the top of this does not go over that. And you can bring it over more to the edge to go outside. It won't hurt nothing. Cool. Prepare a white bow. And I'm going to use a little hot glue on this. I'm just going to place it right up there. We want a flat back pearl in the center. A little flat back in there. Okay, stickles time. I am going to apply stickles to some of the artwork here. And on my roses and up through here. I am debating about adding a little bling around something. The problem is where this sits. If you were to do this, I don't want it to touch this, but I think this is going to make it so it's okay, so it isn't going to tear up my other page. And there's enough room in between the pages. So yep, that is something I am going to add. So I'm just going to glue down some bling trim right here. And then we only have to add just a couple snips right over here. Voila. Okay, we'll let this dry too. My other page is still drying. And then we will mount this in our book. Page 4 is complete and it is open for pictures and everything that we might want to stick in there. Let's stick these aside and move on to page 5. And we'll be putting these in our book here shortly. I did take a short break and I'm ready to put these in my book, page 3 and 4. So everything is dry. That is absolutely gorgeous. Let's grab our 1/4-inch score tape, and the first thing that we're going to do is go around the outside like a picture frame. We're going to go one down the middle, and we're going to lay one on either side, and I think that this one will be plenty. If you feel that you need to possibly add more score tape, do so, but I think this will be good. So this was our page 3. Now for this one, we're going to go around the outside like a picture frame, and we'll start by putting one down the middle. We're going to put 2 pieces here and 2 pieces here. Okay, here's my 3 and 4. I'm going to set 4 to the side. Now, here on out, we just place them as in order. So let's open up our book. And we will be reinforcing the hinges on this. And we will do that shortly. Maybe once we get more towards the back, or we might even wait until we're completely done. This is page 3. And we will want to be about 1/8 of an inch away from our hinge here. That will put us to where we have a little bit of white over there, and of course we'll center this top and bottom. So we'll place this together, and then you'll kind of know how to place the rest of them. They're always about 1/8 of an inch in from the side. So we'll do one more together. Okey-doke. Make sure you're placing it so that you're looking at it like this. And if you need to turn your page, do so. Try to get me here about 1/8 of an inch away. It is hard for me because I am short. It used to be easier because I could stand up and see what I was doing, but I think that that's where I need to be. Okay, so I have this down, and I'm going to use my fingers to spread it out. If I can get that there, down in here, if you can. Get your edges down and in here. Okay, we are in. I'm going to place this one really quick. They are both in the book now. And we will move on to our page. Where is it? Page 5. So off to the side, we stuck several pieces. This is going to be our page 5. We cut 2 pieces of cardstock in our pre-cuts. We have one that is our trim, 1 3/4 inch by 7 1/4, and we labeled that trim. We also had a side pocket that was 4 5/8 by 9 inches. So those of you that are using the deep edge punch, you go ahead and punch along the long side there, and that will give you enough trim to hook onto this, and we'll do that together again for us die cutters. I am in the frame a card, and it looks like this, and I grabbed the largest one. Now the largest one, we're not going to plant that in the middle. What we're going to do is bring that all the way over until this hits the side of this. Once you have it over here in the corner, you need to bring it down about 1/4 inch because we're going to need that white little trim part. So let's die cut it. Die cutters, this is what you should have. So now flip this around and bring this up to where it's lined up like this. See? You can still see just a hair of that white, not much. Make sure you are straight and run that through your die cutter. Do not worry about the edges. We will fix that. This is what we should have. Now you should have some edges like this, and even those of you who punched. All I'm going to do for that is, to ensure that it does not snag, is I'm going to look in my scrap cardstock, and I'm going to measure up a piece, top and bottom. So a little piece like this, and I think I'm just going to cut 2 strips. 2 small strips. This looks like it's almost 3/8. Okay, I'm going to flip this over, and I am going to apply glue to close up the side. So I'm putting this on the back. Now when you look at the front, it will look like this, and that's just fine. Our side pocket. So for this, our side pocket is actually going to sit over to the left. But what we want to do right now is we're going to place this so that we have even amounts. We have no score lines on this one to help us fold over. And we really don't need it, to be honest, on this. So as long as you have some overhang each side, that's fine. We are going to hook this on. So you have, look for your bigger trim mark, your biggest trim mark, and we're going to glue that right on top of that, trying to keep it straight. Let's use our tool to make sure that's down. All right, it is time to get that on there. So let's grab our 1/4 inch score tape, and we're going to lay it to the left side of our page. Make sure that score tape's down, and we're going to install this pocket. Let's give that a good bend. Now we'll line up over here for the side, but what we have to do is make sure that this and this is going to fit, okay? Then I'm gonna carefully turn it so I can see what I am doing. It's still good. I'm gonna press here and press out. Now we just wrap this. Be careful if you use hot glue gun if you're tacking these flaps back. I'm going to turn it over. So this is what we should have. Very pretty. And you should be able to get in there. In your reserves, you're going to find a scrap piece that looks like this. And on the back, it's almost not so much. It just looks like maybe a wave in like a material or something. I'm going to tell you what the size is. It looks like 7 1/4 inches long. It is about 7 1/4 inches long. And it is about 2 3/4 wide. We're going to glue this down. This is making good use of scrap pieces. And we'll put where we can see more of the decoration over there. Not decoration, but of the texture of the paper. We'll bring that over. Next, in your reserve, we want this. Now, remember on the previous page, we had a little blue stripe, kind of, or a light blue on the top. This is that piece on the back. It looks like this. And because we cut for the triangle a corner piece a little bit different, this is about 2 inches this way, and we're gonna, depending if you were punching or die cutting, we're gonna be different lengths, but we will have enough, everyone, to place this down. Make sure you were even with the top of your paper here. Give yourself a little bit of a white border here. We are going to measure to fit, so I'm going to just make a pencil mark where I need to trim and cut that. Once you've trimmed, apply glue, and we're going to glue that right on down, right on top of the other one. In your reserves, you will find this piece on the back. It looks like this. We're going to hand cut, we're going to hand cut this out. And then if you have brown ink, you'll ink around the edges. Once you've done that, apply glue and glue that down. Now all we have to do is cut a piece of our bling to fit top to bottom, and we'll glue that down. Cut a bundle of your Tim Holtz flowers and kind of group them up like so. I am going to use my hot glue, and I'm going to put some down. You can use your regular glue, and I'm going to bunch them up so they're in the corner there, just like that. Those little petite pearls, I just cut a piece, and this is approximately, let's see here, about 7 inches, 7.5 inches. You may want to use your hot glue. Pull that in half so you have even amounts. I'm going to place some glue right up here where those stems are. I'm going to bring this over and around so that it comes through just like that. Okay? Let's make a bow with our ribbon. Okay, so I've made one, and I've got some tails on there. Again, I'm going to place a little hot glue to help this thing out, and I'm going to place it right here. And I can tuck this little thing back underneath there. And I'll clean up my glue strings in just a moment. Clip off one of your jeweled blings, and we'll set that right in the middle. And again, I'm going to use hot glue. It's real quick for me. Put that right in the middle there. Now that looks good. Take a look. You just made your own little embellishment, guys. I have some branch here, and all I'm going to do is snip off a bit. See how this looks if we just tuck that right up underneath there. And I think it will look just fine if I go just a little shorter. So I am going to tuck some of this underneath. Just slide it right up underneath there to drape down. And stickles. Stickles is going on my flowers as well as this. Coming down the page. If you even want to go across the top and get some in here, you can. Over here, I am going to emphasize, and I'm just going to do a little bit. Here is a really pretty butterfly. Not to be perfect, as you can see. It actually comes out cool. So got a little bit of stickles going on here. When this dries, this page will be complete, and then we can put score tape on. And when we put our score tape on, we'll go around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle, and one on either side. And then you can mount this in your book. Look how pretty that is. We're going to move on to page 6. Page 6. This is the page that we're going to use, so grab that from our other base pages. On the back it looks like this. We're going to turn it around so that the lace is right here. Let's go over all of our pieces that we pre-cut. We should have a 7 1/4 inch by 9 1/2 inch piece, and this is called our fold-out page. And we were 9 1/2 inches across the board at 8 3/4. We scored, and at 9 inches we scored. We also had a pocket, and that was 4 5/8 by 9 inches. It's called our side pocket. It's going to be, we're going to construct this the same way we did on the other page. And there's our trim piece, 1 3/4 by 7 1/4 inch. Now we also had 3 pieces that were 3 3/4 inch by 6 3/8 inch. One was our fold out flip up. We had a pocket flip up, and we have another fold out flip up. The scoring on these were all the same. So on all 3 of these, we would have laid our paper across. We would be 6 3/8. We scored at 5 3/4, and we scored at 5 7/8. And we did that on each one of these. Let's start off with our trim and our pocket. Okay. We already know what we need to do, paper punchers. You're just going to punch along the long side. Those of us who die cut, we're going to want to use the same bracket, and we're going to do the same thing. We'll lay it on here, and then we'll piggyback and die cut like we did before. The next thing is, remember those small little about 3/8 or actually 1/4 inch, whatever it was, those little things to close up the sides? We'll want to do that again. We'll place this, our pocket, so that we have overlap on each side. Then we're going to apply glue to our piece, and it's going to get glued down. Perfect. Let's install our pocket. Let's get our 1/4 inch score tape, and it's going to go on this side. I'm going to turn this. It's easier for me to see what I'm doing. I'm going to give a good bend and line up those sides. And I can see I didn't get my glue down very well up here. There we go. Wait for your glue to definitely dry. So I'm just going to bring that and look at the side to side and down over here. Fingers in the middle and push out. There is our side pocket. We will be needing our little piece that says pocket flip up. And what we're going to do is fold on those score lines. And we have our flap is up here, top and bottom score line. On the bottom one, we're just going to fold that behind, so all we're looking at is what needs to be covered. In your reserves, you will find this, and if you were to lay it down, it would be a perfect fit. Let's apply glue. Ooh, I like that side. That looks good too. Okay, apply glue to this side and glue that right on down. Also in your reserves, you will find this, and it took me a minute to find this. On the back, looks like this. Once you locate this, bring this down and match it up to your other piece. That is where we're going to use our pencil to make sure they are even. And actually, there's a water spot up here on mine. That's where I think I want to trim it for this. So I'm going to put these together. I'll trim that water spot off. It's not a water spot, it's a distressed spot. And I'm going to take that off. Once you have that glued down, you can apply glue to this and you'll just butt that right on up next to it. If you need to overlap a little to get a little white border, do so. But when applying glue, make sure you get right there on that seam and use your bone folder to smooth it down. We're going to find our paper for this. It's really simple. In your reserves, sorry for this, you will find this sheet. On the back it looks like this. We're going to cut out this panel here. We're also going to cut out this panel and this panel and this one. But instead of going like this, we're just going to cut out to where we have all the white part, that trim, off of it. These two here set off to the side. We'll be getting to those. On this pocket, remember I said to fold it all back so that all you see is what we need. Place this down. This should be a good fit. Give me a little white top and bottom and some on the side. We're going to glue that down. I got mine down and now I'm going to flip that up. And now this is down here, we're going to glue that down and that should be a perfect fit too. Watch out for that score line down there. Let's attach. So you have this to where you're kind of flat here. Hook that right on top. Make sure you are even. And let's glue that little flap down. So that's what it should look like, and you fold it up, have somewhere to journal, or even put another picture. What we have here next, and we're going to work on, is our large 7 1/4 by 9 1/2 inch piece. We are going to attach this. Our score lines will be off to the right, so let's fold on those. You'll want to fold on your outside score line, and we are just going to attach this. So make sure you are even, top and bottom. So we have that hooked back behind. Make sure you are straight. Pinch and hold that. Now if you're using hot glue, please be careful because any hot glue can seep down into the hinging area. So white glue is always best. But I like to fly by the seat of my pants, so you never know what I'm going to get. All right. So I have that pushed back. I am flat on the side. This is what you should have. Let's open that up and find our paper for right here. Before we get into the paper, we are going to want to place a magnet. So we're going to go about I'd say about 3/4 inch, maybe 1/2 inch in from the edge here. Just place it. Now when this flops over, there should be plenty of room so that we can just place our magnet back behind this. And we will place that as soon as we get our papers down and all the bulk. In paper pack number 2, you'll find a couple things. You'll find your tag sheet. This is what we want. We'll just set that to the side. You will also find another one of these. On the back is this. We're going to cut and divide all of these up. So after cutting that up, I want you to put one of these down for a moment. There's one that looks like this, and it looks like that on the other side. Put that down. The next one we are going to want is, let's see here, this one on the back. It looks like that. So these 3 just stick here. Now, we had set a couple pieces off to the side like this. So the ones that are going to go with that, ooh, these are so pretty. How can I make my mind up, you guys? Let's pull them all over. Keep this one. Put this in your reserves. Flip these 2 over. They go with these that we set aside first. So the ones that we have here will just stick over here. Now we need to cut our paper. So we're going to look at it like this. We're ready to cut. This is this piece. We're going to measure over 7 inches and cut. Now measure over 8 3/8 inch and cut. Put the smaller pieces in reserve. You can see your 2 score lines. There's one over here and one over here. Apply glue to this and make sure you are away from this score line there. This should be a nice fit. If you push it over, you should have approximately 1/8 of an inch away from that. And we're just going to glue that down. On all of these pieces, if you could ink around your edges, if you'd like that look, I'm going to ink around mine really quick. I'm done inking mine. Now these 2 were not on our pre-cut, so we're going to need to cut these. This is extra that I wanted to add. Cut 2 pieces that are 3 3/4 by 5 5/8 inch. We're going to apply glue to this one, and we are going to glue it, leaving a white border around. This is the other one. I'm going to apply glue, and I'm going to glue it to this one. So let's do that. This is the one with the white border. We're going to place this one first here. And on this one, we're just going to apply glue to the back. Now, when we place this, we're still going to leave some of our decorative paper showing. So we want about 1/4 inch in, or 1/4 inch of your decorative paper showing here and at the top. This one. So this one's a little different. All we're going to do is apply glue at the bottom. And this one comes down here lower, and we have 1/4 inch of decorative paper showing here and down here. This little guy, we're just going to slide that back in there for now. That looks good there. All right, close this up. We need to get our paper for here, and we will work with these as well.